Splyce altogether.
All right, let's find out what they decide to do, if the jungle focus will be the way to go. Once again, Ryze taken off the table on the red side. We're still seeing that as a red side ban. And the respect ban barred towards MIkyx. May not be seeing that for a little while longer.
I mean, he had a phenomenal performance on the Bard. It's a warranted ban that I think the new member of Splyce has rightly deserved. Curious as to what he's going to bring out now. Last game we saw an early rotation of the Karma coming out from Splyce. Valuing that support considering to be quite strong, but it is actually the Rek'Sai being banned from Schalke, so they do want to take that away from Trashy. And now I feel this is going to increase the priority of that Gragas, because so far from Trashy, we have seen the Gragas, we have seen the Rek'Sai. It will be interesting to see what else he brings out.
But we forgot that Vlad was not banned.
Ah, Vlad, yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing. That is a thing. And when it is available, it is nearly insta-locked here by Fox.
And Fox's first performance on the Vlad was, well, it was devastating for his opponents, because they got Exile, I believe, was the first to experience that, and he got pushed around so heavily by Fox, getting that solo kill in the mid lane as well. He is one of the mid laners that definitely picked up this Vlad very early on and has made it work for his team.
So listen, Bedius, I know you're a mid laner yourself, and I have asked you this question off air. I'm now going to put you on the spot on air. What do you run into Vladimir?
Swain!
Right.
Right now, I had this conversation with Fizz earlier, and he was like, yeah, but Swain's bad now. And I'm just like, well, even after the nerfs, he can still do what he does best, which is be really irritating to lane against, because he trades back and forth. We've seen Splyce run it in the past. Will they run it into Fox? Up for debate.
Up for debate. They've got about 5 minutes to settle the debate.
Yep.
So if it's not Swain, what will it be? There's Trashy locking in the Gragas. Once again, you know, 2 games on that, 2 wins on that champion. Do you want to know how many assists he's got, Vedius?
I'd love to know how
I'll tell you, because I've got the numbers in front of me. 25 assists in those 2 games. He went 4-3-25, and he found some of the crucial picks that opened up some of those victories. So if he can avoid getting caught out, like Gilius did in the previous game, then the potential is there for Splyce.
It does surprise me that Schalke allowed Splyce to pick up this Gragas. And there is the Anivia! All of the Analyst Desk predictions have come true today. We saw the Nami, we've seen the Ashe, we've seen the Alawi, and now we've gotten your Anivia that you managed to call. So we've got 4 for 4 today.
To be fair, the only one of our picks that was a little bit out there was Deficient. So he deserves a little bit more of a cookie, because we have seen the Anivia into Vladimir over in the LCK.
We have, and this is another great pick into the Vladimir. It's actually very difficult for the Vlad to trade into the Anivia, because she is another champion that's really good at keeping you at arm's length. She has that incredible slow in her ultimate, and the crowd control from her Q is a lot easier to use ever since the mid-season changes. And even though on 6-11, the mana costs on her ultimate have ever so slightly increased, she is still an effective laner that can trade very well into the Vlad.
Yeah, a lot of tools to deal with Vlad, and as well as the stalling ability is something that this is a champion that is famous for, especially here in Europe. We're going to see another Zyra. I'm quite happy to see Zyra back in the meta. I just find her a very interesting champion to watch, especially with some of the changes that we've seen over the last few patches. And that is a very long-range, frustrating duo lane to deal with the Caitlyn Zyra.
That seems to be Splyce's go-to strategy with their duo bottom lane. They had the Bard with the Caitlyn last game, now they're going for the Zyra. They just really want to bully ADC and sprattel around, and by picking up this Zyra, you're going to have so much more lane presence. And if you just think around these dragon fights that now are rising in popularity, we didn't see so much in this game, but that Zyra ultimate can do some real damage in these mid-game fights.
Especially when you combo it with the potential AoE damage that Anivia can put down. There's great team fighting options here for Splyce, but the one thing I'm not seeing a huge amount is that very reliant on landing a skill shot from Anivia, from Zyra, or a barrel from Gragas to catch someone out, and we'll find out if they can. Right, Schalke, team composition locked in, another Irelia today, and Sprattel's got his hands on that Alistar. The 2 games that, well, 2 of the games that Schalke have won, he's been playing on that Alistar. 0 deaths so far.
So it looks like Schalke setting up for a 1-3-1 right now. They have the double teleport on the Irelia and the Vladimir as well, and you have plenty of wave clear with the Sivir, combine that with the Kindred too. And not only that, they do actually have quite powerful late game team fighting with the Vladimir, Kindred ultimate to keep you alive, and the possible flanking pick potential that Irelia has, who now on patch 6.11 is actually a lot stronger when you combine her with the Trinity Force changes. So Schalke, again, going for a relatively well-rounded composition that has a number of options available to it, but it still takes a little while to ramp up.
Yeah, and I think a non-traditional front line, you know, in the terms that it's going to be the Vlad, it's going to be the Irelia, the Alistar. Obviously, Alistar is going to be great as long as his ulti's up, but not your normal tank that we're used to seeing. On the side of Splyce, it will be the Fizz once more for Wunder. Felt like he had a very good performance in that previous game, especially in those late game team fights, found the targets he needed to. And we get to see, will Fizz be able to contain and control this Irelia?
It's actually a very difficult matchup for the Irelia. She really does struggle in the early game to trade back and forth with the Fizz, and Wunder can put a lot of hurt down, build up a massive CS lead, just like he did in game 1 against his counterpart. If we're going to be seeing a lane swap, I do expect it to come out from Schalke. Irelia not the best in lane swaps, but still, you kind of want to avoid that 2 versus 2 as well as the 1 versus 1 for as long as possible.
Especially true when you have a Alistar support into Zyra support. A fairly linear engage pattern for that Alistar. You can see the team composition here for Schalke.
The only advantage I would say for the Alistar in that situation is if Alistar gets his combo down, that's Zyra dies instantly because she is very squishy. The big thing for me about Splyce is their composition is actually very low mobility. If you look at Zyra, has no escapes, very slow, very low base health. Anivia, actually very slow, very easy to kill as well. So
just gonna do it twice?
That could very well be, yeah, you do have to do it twice, but that could very well be an avenue for Schalke to take.
All right, so for Schalke, let's see if they can punish the low mobility on at least some of those champions on the Splyce side. If you can kill the bird of the plant, maybe that's a way to even out this series. Schalke are down 0-1, remember, as we load up for the final game here of day 1 in week 2 on EU LCS 1 and 2, as we have joined the streams for the last game of the day. I want to remind everybody, by the way, the Twitter question today has become extremely appropriate. It was, what champion is must pick / ban on 6.11? And we have seen a ton of new champions today. So make sure you guys are answering that one, because I'm hoping we can get some of them up on PGL once this game wraps up.
I had a sneaking suspicion that we might see Vel'Koz because of the changes.
Oh, but you didn't say that in the analyst.
No, but because I thought that it was way too bold. The only reason why is because he's actually a really good pick into Azir, who I didn't think was completely out of the meta yet. But yet to see it. Maybe we'll see it over in LCK. Who knows? We have seen it in LCK in the past. But.
Yeah, we've seen it a few times. I think Faker debuted that at IEM, if memory serves. Although he'd done it beforehand, but that is an aside. Sencux's Anivia is going to be interesting, because Sencux is the one player on Splyce that we're not super excited about. You know, we're talking so much about the other 4 guys. And I feel he's on quite a pivotal role in champion, especially because he's gone very bold with Flash Ignite.
Ooh. Okay, well, you can do this on the Anivia. I think that you have to be very wary of running teleports on mid laners. A bit of a pet peeve of mine is seeing Victor and less so on Azir, but on a lot of mid lane mages running teleport, because its value in a team fight isn't actually great. If you try to set up a TP flank, you're kind of teleporting into 4 members or something, and it's kind of the tank's job to set up that kind of a play. So it's not always optimal. Usually you're getting that teleport for the lane. Something like an exhaust, or with the changes to Ghost, it actually means that they can often be more valuable in terms of helping you set up for plays. But the fact that Sencux has gone for this Ignite really does suggest that he wants to put a little bit of pressure down, and given that he does have the matchup advantage, he's just demonstrating that he knows what he's doing.
The theory is he knows. Now we need to see it demonstrated. That's what I want to see play out. But the lane swap has in fact been initiated here. MrRalleZ and sprattel were looking to challenge and get a little annoying with Trashy and Wunder, but they didn't really get too far into the jungle. And it looks as though Stevie's made it halfway to the tower, but will just teleport in, buy a couple extra shots. It seems to be equalized by Wunder in the bottom.
Seems like both teams pretty even in terms of tempo. Both top laners having to burn their teleports to get to their strong side of the map, because the big difference here was that normally what will happen is the support will move in to the enemy red and try and stop that objective. But in this situation, that's not what happened, so both teams could take their respective blue and red buffs that were on their half of the map, which meant that their top laners were actually quite far away. So it still works out though, neither top laner going to be able to make that play. And very unfortunate for Gilius actually, because now with the changes to his mark, you do actually know where the mark is going to be spawning depending on how many marks you have. And there's a 50-50 chance that the mark is going to spawn on the Scuttle Crab that's next to you, unfortunately for him.
No, not this. Oh, that's so close. Oh, I held my breath there.
Lag. Just forget about that one.
Lag on land. Lag on land. Can't imagine if I was holding my breath what Kobbe was holding, but he gets away with his life. And Wunder is able to close that tower out. But, you know, tempo advantage here to Schalke. MrRalleZ and sprattel, they're already running into lane. They're already going to start to deny Wunder some additional CS.
So this is the interesting thing. Have a look at where Trashy is right now. You could look to set up a gank, immediately decide to disengage, which is very unfortunate because this was something that I talked at length with Fisher about, and how when you watch the Chinese teams set up these lane swaps, they're not afraid to make these very risky plays. So you know that the bottom lane or the duo partner is going to be walking back to the bottom half of the map. So you can try and set up a gank there. You can look for an opportunity, but a lot of these teams prefer to just play it safe. So Trashy decides to disengage, and then both the respective bottom lanes just going to return to the side lane to then take themselves that first turret.
Yeah, no real advantages. We saw that first big trade there between Fox and Sencux. Sencux was able to get that Flash Frost and get the stun down, but Fox not too bothered by it. He still built himself up a 14 CS advantage very early on. That is sizable at this point in the game.
It certainly is. And this is the thing you have to bear in mind about Anivia. Yes, the matchup overall does go in favor of Anivia, but she does have a very weak period between level 1 and level 5, where if she doesn't land her Q, it's actually very difficult for her to trade back. And because Vladimir is very good right now at shoving you into turret very early, thanks to the changes to Ties of Blood, as well as the Crimson Rush, which allows him to sustain a lot more in lane, you can punish the Anivia very early. You can force it to lose a lot of farm under the turret. And because of the teleport advantage that Fox does in fact have, he can be hyper-aggressive, get away with it, because he can then just return to lane whenever he wants.
And that's exactly what's happening. There's the teleport to lane just a few seconds ago. Spectre's Cowl picked up. And looking elsewhere, I mean, Dragon is pretty early here for Schalke. Going to get their hands onto Ocean. Could potentially help them out, actually, if they want to play the 1-3-1. Keep themselves sustained for winning the push. Grasping Roots rather. Not going to find their target as MIkyx shows his face.
So what you want to do here now as Schalke is return to standard lanes. You know that Splyce is going to send their AD carry back down to the bottom lane, who's likely going to start pushing. And so what you can then do is, or actually this is quite smart from Schalke, they've set up a deep ward because they want to identify what Splyce are going to do. And if Splyce do decide to shove, then it's just better to send your bottom lane back into the lane that's shoving towards you. The great lesson that I learned from being here in Europe is that what you always want to do is have the weak collect the farm and have the strong push the farm. And typically your AD carry and support have been the ones that have always been collecting the farm. So they're the ones that want to shove it up because they're your strong. Whereas your top laners, they're the ones that have been starved. So they're the ones that want to receive. So the powerful push while the weak receive is a great way to identify where you want to be putting.
You can make a League of Legends motivational quote with that, you know?
Motivational, the strong will push.
Picture of minions, you know, sitting in the lane, zoomed up nice and close.
Strong will push.
There we go. See, I like that. Motto to follow if you're in.
If you want to learn about lane swaps, really.
Well, 7 minutes in, Splyce have got themselves a small advantage in CS. He's in the top lane in AD carry, while Sencux is playing some catch up.
So this is actually where Splyce has screwed up a little bit because they've shoved both lanes in. So now Schalke, it doesn't matter where they put their laners, all they need to do is set up a freeze so that they can just collect as much free farm. And now Splyce are going to be forced to overextend. Or they could just rotate around to the mid and try and put a bit of pressure down on the front.
So difficult though. A flash Sanguine pool Vladimir. I guess the show of force can at least force him away from the lane. As Trashy and MIkyx actually walk inside. And that mini-map slowly clearing out. Taking a look as Steve is shoving out top, and you can see RALZ and sprattel also slowly pushing their way forward. Very good stun into Fox. He kind of walked into that skill shot, to be fair.
So this is actually where the matchup starts to go in favor of Sencux. He now has his wave clear ability. He's not going to get shoved under turret anymore. He's got his tier, which, for those unaware, the best way to think of the advantage of tier is it reduces all of your abilities' mana cost by 15%. So on Anivia, highly valuable. Very likely that she's going to transition into that Rod of Ages next, and then the world is her oyster, depending on what she decides to build. If she wants to go a bit more damage, maybe a Death Cap, maybe a Void Staff. She has a lot of options, and we've seen a wide variation. Froggen springs to mind, and I tend to think of Anivia builds and like Warmogs, Thieves, and all kinds of things.
To be fair, that was the low-hanging fruit. Fox gets caught out on the Crystallize, forced to flash away. And Sencux, there we go, level 7. That early game weakness has dissipated. And he forces away the summoner spell from Fox.
Anivia being a pesky bird, just pecking away at Vlad's eyes. As he struggles to deal with the pressure that's coming out. As we now return to standard lanes. Everybody matching up against the equal counterparts. The lanes are just going to constantly push back and forth. Neither team willing to push past the river through fear of a potential gank. And you can set those ganks up with a Gragas and a Kindred, so both teams are very mindful. And again, it's very likely to be quite slow.
And I think for the side of Schalke, in terms of those ganks, a lot of pressure now on sprattel and Steve when he gets involved, because that's where the CC comes from. You know, yes, there's eventually going to be a slow from Fox, and we assume the RalleZ will come out, but the Equilibrium Strike and the Headbutt Pulverize, that's what's going to have to hold Splyce in place. Other than that, you just got to run at them with Kindred and Sivir. Press all with Sivir and hope for the best.
But Anivia Wall is actually really good at dissuading that, especially if you're fighting around these choke points, Dragon. Just think about the zone control you have to play around. You think of the Fizz ult, it's not actually that massive, but it's actually something you have to be very mindful of. The Zyra ultimate as well as the Anivia Wall and the Anivia ult. You want to really run into all that?
Well, I don't. But Schalke need to figure out a way to either run around it or get one of those deep wards down like they did a little bit earlier so they can teleport in. I mean, they've got 2 TPs, so maybe that's one of the ways.
Thinking a little bit more about it, I mean, Splyce draft is actually great for this composition that Schalke have drafted because they have no reliable hard way to force a fight. Yes, the Alistar can flash in, go for a headbutt pulverize, but if he does, then you're going to get an immediate Zyra ultimate on top of him. So sure, you can go for that play, but then where's the follow-up? Is it really going to be possible when you have this massive area of control abilities that are going to dissuade you from really committing to any real engagement?
Yeah, that's a challenge, isn't it? Luckily for Steve, he's got some built-in tenacity. That Irelia passive will help somewhat against all of the CC that Splyce have built. But then the next question is, how will Splyce control Irelia? We're 11 minutes in, and I don't think you or I have mentioned Fizz or Irelia once. So shame on us.
Shame.
What do you think of this matchup? Because you mentioned that Fizz would have some advantages earlier. However, Steve has come out even in CS, and both teams are trading in a turret.
That's largely thanks to the lane swap. Neither top laner really had an opportunity to go head-to-head because when we did revert to standard lanes, Wunder was actually so far overextended, the wave was super far pushed that he just had to back away. But it's been great for Irelia, the fact that she could just get this early farm, work towards that very early Trinity Force. And now both teams, with these big minion raids, are actually quite quickly pushing onto these tier 2 turrets on the side.
Yeah, Splyce has already taken Schalke's tower in the top lane, and Schalke, they're unable to equalize. Crystallized wall comes down, Flash Frost, not going to find a stun. We didn't catch it on stream, but Wunder actually used his ultimate earlier onto Steve, and that's why Steve's flash is down. So Splyce with some very good plays. They get a tower, they get a flash out of their opponent's top laner, and they have the potential to group for a dragon.
Picking up that early sheen from Wunder, something that you do see a lot on Fizz, going for the very early Iceborne Gauntlet. Means that Steve just didn't really have the damage just yet to be able to trade back. And to be fair, it is very difficult to trade back with a Fizz when he is so slippery. And given the fact that he will likely be building full tank until Irelia picks up that Trinity Force, it will be quite difficult to hold her own in that.
May not need to hold his own in the 1v1 when the entire team is grouped a dragon. Fox is sitting in base. Steve has just left it. There's Potential for team fight. Yeah, body slam into Flash. Sprattel gets the knockup too. He separated Kobbe, and Gilius is buying time with Land's Respite, but the Dragon is still hammering away on everybody. Here comes Steve, gets knocked up into the air by Stranglethorns. We catch a glimpse of RalleZ's body falling to the ground. It's a double kill for Kobbe. He's not done yet. 90 calipers towards Fox. Fox gets rid of the Tides of Blood, and a giant bunny rabbit sends him packing. 4 members of Schalke are killed, and the Dragon is picked up by Splyce.
This is something you have to be very mindful of if you're going to commit to a Dragon this early on into the game. You have all of these massive AoE abilities that just lock you in place and can split up your team, and when you're that separated, it just allows Wunder to really go to town, especially after picking up this very early Iceborne Gauntlet. So have a look at how this fight actually kicks off. Gilius is left in the pit by himself, taking a huge amount of damage. Sprattel, not level 6, quickly gets popped, and while it was a great play onto Kobbe, all he does is knock Kobbe into a 1-versus-1 against Sivir, who just isn't going to be able to win that. With the numbers advantage that Splyce have, and the fact that they have the positional advantage, combined with the very late teleports coming in from Schalke, it's simply a matter of cleanup for Splyce, as well as picking up the Dragon.
I can't believe that level up, I believe, even saved MIkyx's life in the Dragon Pit. What a monumental swing. 3,000 gold, an Infernal Dragon, and now Splyce, they're grouped up, sieging this bottom tower. Things are going to work right around as Gilius backs out of the jungle. But yeah, no 6 on Sprattel. Couldn't stay on that front line any longer.
He has a level 6 now, so that's good. But sorry, that was a great interaction being rooted and then walled off. As Splyce very easily secure themselves that tier 1 turret in the mid, extending their gold lead now to 3k, so having a much better early game than they did in the past. And finally seeing glimpses of the team fight potential that Splyce have been looking for.
You have to question Schalke. Have to talk about that dive, or the team fight rather, and they had hoped to happen. Next Dragon's going to be mounted, so that's definitely going to be worth fighting over.
3 different Drakes consecutive. I think this is the
Yeah,
first time
what is
I've
this?
ever seen this. I mean, that's literally the first time I've ever seen that, I think. Well, yeah, first time for everything. But yes, Gilius is someone that I would like to quickly touch on, because our personal featured matchup was these 2 junglers, and so far Gilius has been quite underwhelming. He is not having the same sort of performance that he had in week 1. He's been making questionable decisions, like in that last fight, sitting in the Baron pit when it was very obvious Splyce were looking to make that collapse. Gilius did have his ultimate available. There was opportunities for him to at least keep Sprattel alive, buy a little bit more time for Schalke to...
But it didn't matter, that's the problem.
Yeah, it's just...
It fought like 3 seconds, and then, you know, Mickey just put down the Stranglethorns and it reset everything once again.
Yo, just like the Cloud Drake and getting to lane a second sooner, those seconds are valuable, Trevor.
Touche. You raise a valuable point.
But yeah, it's just Gilius. I'm still waiting to see more from him. He is playing this Kindred. He has completed now his jungle item, the Blood Razor.
Not Devour anymore.
Yeah, not Devour.
That's the worst part. I wanted to help
The
you, but I
yellow
was like,
one.
I wanted to help you, and I was like, it's not Devour, it's not Devour. I can't help you.
I'm just gonna go with jungle item.
See, I don't play jungle. It is by far my weakest role.
It's my second role.
Oh, I'm so bad at jungle. Like, I'm legitimately harmful to the team. It becomes 6v4 if I'm playing jungle.
Just play Graves and farm. It's just like AD carry 2.0 is. Does look like
at the wrong
Fox.
place at the wrong time, just like Fox. There's a flash not available for Fox. He gets Hemo Plague out, buying some time with Sanguine Pool, but it simply doesn't matter, and Trashy and Wunder just run him down.
So that's just bad positioning from Fox. He shouldn't have been there. He has his teleport available. You could see that he wanted to try and push the wave past the river, but the river is always your cutoff point. You should never really go beyond that, because that is the optimal place for someone to set up a gank. Now with the numbers advantage, Splyce, they might take the tier 2 for free.
And you've got to deal with all of that zone control. We've touched on every single form of CC. You've even got to filter into Caitlyn traps on top of everything else. It seems almost insurmountable, the amount of zoning that you have to get around. There is a pink ward behind Wunder and teleport, so Wunder could be in trouble here. No flash, remember. Hop, skip, jump, flash. He's being run down, and Wolf will pick up the kill.
But have a look at what Splyce is doing. Actually, I got a little bit too excited. I thought they were picking themselves up the Baron, but we're only 17 and a half minutes into the game.
It's been a long day, Vinius, but it's not Baron yet.
Oh, man. But they get themselves the Rift Herald, something that a lot of teams haven't put that much value on, but given that Wunder was overextended, Splyce felt that they needed to get an objective in return. Interesting that they've decided to put it on Sencux because he doesn't have the teleport. I guess they've decided that given that he's been sitting in mid lane a lot, he's putting a lot of pressure down himself, having the extra bit of damage reduction would actually be very valuable to him if Schalke find that opportunity to get the collapse onto this low mobility.
I just feel like Sencux is going to plant himself in that mid lane even longer.
I mean, that's a mid laner's dream, really. Just give a mid laner a blue buff, give him endless farm, and just like, all right, guys, I'm going to chill out. When I've got 5 items and some boots, then we can hang out. But until then, let's just wait. And then on Anivia, who scales exceptionally well and wants those full stacks of the Rod of Ages. Bear in mind, it's only 18 minutes, so unlikely to have all of the stacks yet. Only has 5 right now. I mean, yeah, you just want to buy time.
Yeah, the next thing is, you know, you have to talk about it. At 4 minutes, Trashy donated blue buff to Sencux in game 1. This time round, they've donated the Rift Herald buff, a glimpse of the void, to Sencux. So there's a lot of focus, I think is a good word, on empowering Sencux this series.
In my eyes, it's very much like, hey, we know the casters haven't talked about you much, Sencux, so here, have some love from the rest of the team. We'll give you some stuff to make you feel important. And
I'm sure that was part of the team discussion this week. Yamata Cannon sitting in the background going, yeah, this is what we want to do. Steve is going to dash all the way forward. Chum the Waters comes up, buying some time. The Playful Trickster's not enough, and Wunder, he goes down. That was a very quick kill for Schalke.
Good dive from Schalke, to be fair. That was well executed. They managed the turret aggro well. Wunder, problem with having no flash is that sometimes you can't get punished for it. Sencux now might be in a 1v2.
He is in a 1v2. Crystallize will at least block off Steve's ability to engage. Cooldown's coming back up. 1 second on Flash Frost. If the stun lands, Fox is in trouble, but he's forced to flash away.
That Rift Herald buff coming in handy right there. The extra damage reduction, the extra bit of damage down onto Fox as well. And great positioning of the ultimate there from Sencux to actually cut off the escape of Fox and ends up burning his flash. So even though Wunder gives over his life, again, Splyce, they're getting an objective on the other side of the map. Pick themselves up the Mountain Drake. And to be fair, of all the Drakes that have been taken, I think Splyce can be pretty happy with that too.
Oh, beyond a shadow of a doubt. They've got the ability to take down objectives quicker. They've got the ability to take down champions quicker.
If only they could run faster, Trevor.
Hey, we have to find out what the next one is. I'm going to take a quick look at the pit if I can see what it is. It's going to be an ocean, so we're not going to see the Cloud Drake just yet, unless I'm mistaken on that one.
It's actually impossible for there to be 4 types of the Drake
well, there
in the
we
game,
go.
so it had to be one of the 3 that we have already seen.
There we go. So it will be the Ocean Drake next. We'll find out who's going to get their hands on it. But for Splyce, at 20 minutes, Vedius rather, they've got themselves a 4,000 gold lead. 5 kills to 2. 5 towers to 2. It is just... It's such a good lead and in such a good position for them, especially with their 2 Drakes as well.
It certainly is. I mean, at 20 minutes into the game, Splyce have all of the advantages that they could have possibly wanted. The only one that's struggling a little bit is Wunder. Now that the Trinity Force, as well as the Hexrink has been completed, he's likely going to lose his life.
Yeah, will be the case. Wunder gets the chomp up though and will trade 1 for 1. Chum the Waters this time buys enough time.
So, Wunder, the fact that he's able to get at least 1 kill off the back of that is great for him. Root lands onto Gilius.
Oh, very, very careful. No Stranglethorns thrown down from MIkyx. Finally, Schalke take the tower. If you remember correctly, Splyce took the inner turret down about 5-6 minutes ago. And Schalke were unable to reply.
But now you've got the split push presence of Fox, who is putting a lot of pressure down the side lane, and because Splyce have already done a great job of controlling all the objectives, they've actually got no objectives left to take. So, small return given to Schalke. Baron could have been a potential play, but it's very risky when you're going up against an Alistar.
Very early on in the game. I like the fact that Splyce have placed some deep vision, but not the greatest. You know, it's fairly shallow in that blue buff area of Schalke. For Splyce, I think they're going to be fairly content to play this one a little slower. Morellonomicon just picked up for Sencux. His rower is almost fully stacked. I think the tier should be pretty close as well. Actually, slightly slower than expected. 500 of the 750. He's actually a bit higher.
He's actually building a lot of mana, not the conventional build that I'm used to seeing on Anivia. Usually they will go for a little bit more damage following the Rod of Ages and the tier. Decided to want to pick up that Morello sooner, but look at Gilius, he might be caught.
Well, Gilius is going to be able to dance of arrows over the wall. Body slam comes up from Trashy. Gilius continues to jump away, but he's knocked back Lamb's Splyce buys some time for the teleport to complete, and Steve, wow! He put so much damage onto MIkyx. Wunder is looking for Steve. He's going to get the slowdown from that Iceborne Gauntlet that continues to chase. Gilius was the only victim. That ward that Schalke had in front of the Baron Pit has now timed out. So there's no more vision for Schalke in the pit. And there is a ward behind at the Crump, but it is a trinket ward, so it cannot be teleported.
And remember all of the zone control that Splyce have available to them. There's the Zyra, there's the Caitlyn traps, there's the Anivia. They have plenty of opportunities to just delay Schalke from getting to the Baron.
MIkyx used Stranglethorns though, so a lot of the cooldown, it's not even going to be needed. Splyce just rushed that one. MrRalleZ is caught out. I think he stepped on a trap. Wunder's looking for more. Defensive flash from RalleZ. Fox forced to Sanguine Pool. And Splyce are in absolute control. They have everything they want.
I have to give big props to whoever's making the decisions on Splyce because they are quick to make these decisions. They get that pick onto Gilius. They don't overcommit. They don't try and chase on for more kills. They just go, we need an objective right now. And whether that be due to Yamato Cannon or whether it's the introduction of MIkyx, Splyce just seem to be so much better at, after finding small advantages, they turn that straight into an objective, which overall is what a top-tier team needs to be doing.
Yeah, and it's something that Splyce are starting to show more and more. You know, controlled games. I think if you look over the games that they have lost, because they've split both of their series, both of the games that Splyce lost, they could have won. That's a little bit of
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Did you see their game against Vitality where the Lissandra nuke duck? Something that you should be very wary about crossing paths with.
Touche, fair point. The mid game went off, but the early game was looking a little better for them.
It was.
And you know, it's team fights that have undone Splyce in the past. But when you've got a 5k gold lead, when you've got Baron buff, when you've got 2 Drakes already, you've got all this extra headroom that even if you make mistakes in team fights, you can still do very well.
Certainly can. I'm yet to see Sencux use this Ignite, I'm gonna be honest. Was it the optimal choice? Up for debate. But still, he's making it work, I suppose. And now, Splyce looking to set up a siege on this mid.
Or alternatively, he's making it not matter because everything else seems to be working. Take a look at the wall. Here comes Sprattel from the side. Not able to find any frontline. Teleport from Wunder's going to arrive just a little late. But they've got Kobbe. This could be good for Schalke. Wunder's in the front line, though. He's looking for Gilius. Lamb's respite times out. Wunder's got himself a kill. Got himself a second. Steve and Fox are doing what they can with Types of Blood. The Hex Drinker, the Maw, is not going to be enough to save his life. Sencux looks like he'll get taken down. Turned into Egg. And the Crystallize is fantastic. It splits away Fox. Wunder's going to look to clean this one up. Teleport. The Flash Frost comes down. Wunder shuts him down. The ace for Splyce, and that looked so scary.
Sencux, the hero of that fight, his positioning was so good, constantly keeping his opponents at arm's length to optimize his DPS and buy time for Wunder to just maintain that threat onto the backline of Schalke. What looked like a really bad start for Splyce ended up turning miraculously in their favor, and they're going to get themselves 2 turrets in the bottom lane. Great stuff from Splyce, really making this Anivia pick work.
So there's the replay of this one, taking a look at Sencux's positioning, and of course Wunder's going to finish his teleport shortly.
So initially, you lose Kobbe, which is awful, really bad. That is so much DPS that you no longer have available. But look at what Sencux is doing. He's constantly sitting on the back line, keeping himself away from Steve, who has to focus on the front line. He has to deal with these tanks, and Sencux is constantly being unharmed. It just means that he's freely allowed to get all this DPS off on the back line. That clutch wall at the very end to keep Fox away so that he had enough time to then come out, help Wunder to pick up the cleanup kill and turn that fight around is just really impressive stuff. We were wondering when Sencux was going to shine. Well, he's doing it this game.
4,793 gold in the Baron power play. Puts Splyce up nearly 9,000 gold over Schalke. 7 towers to 3. They grabbed their 3rd dragon of the game. That was the Ocean Drake to go with the Infernal and the Mountain. And I believe there'll still be 1 more Drake before Elder. And Splyce, this is now their game to lose. They have so many tools and so many ways to play the map and to play the game. Clean and controlled is all they're going to be looking for.
That's all they need to do. They group up in the bottom lane. There's an exposed inhibitor here. Just chuck all your traps down, throw up an Anivia wall, You have also the Glacial Storm to zone your opponents away, and then you just use the long-range Caitlyn to slowly pick away at this inhibitor.
Yeah, all of the tools are available for Splyce to zone. Wunder is going to arrive just a little bit late. Just trying to put some additional pressure on that middle lane. Splyce may want to deal with the top lane, because Schalke have got a very big minion wave pushing towards him. Wunder's Playful Trickster over the wall. Chum the Waters is available, not even going to be needed. Splyce literally just walked in and took that.
And now they can do exactly the same here in the middle lane. Wunder doesn't have his teleport available, but the minion wave up in the top isn't big enough to, or it may very well take that turret, but it doesn't matter because Splyce just want to keep pushing the tempo advantage that they have right now. They're feeling very confident. They feel like that they have the advantage that they need to close out this game. Fox ends up getting rooted.
Oh, a lot of damage onto MIkyx. Used the Proto Belt forward. Wunder's already used Playful Trickster. Flash Frost stuns nobody. Sprattel gets caught out, gets pinned against the wall. Fox throws down the Hemo Blade. Boomerang Blade splats across. Kobbe's down. Where is Sencux? Running for his life. Wunder's buying some time. Chum the Waters knocked up the back line of Schalke. RalleZ, though, takes so much damage from that Glacial Storm. Sprattel rooted, taken out by MIkyx. They end up trading 1-for-1.
Splyce, unfortunately, their fights seem to always start with Kobbe dying, which I'm no expert, but I would say that losing your AD carry at the very start is not a great way to kick off your fights. You want to be setting up a perimeter around your AD carry to try and keeping him alive as long as you can. Splyce, this could be a bit of an overcommitment. They need to be mindful, but Fox is in trouble.
He's already used Sanguine Pool. There's no Hourglass, remember. Wunder dashes forward, hops out, chasing out. The Proto Belt throws Fox in range of Wunder, but not a lot of damage. That's a very tanky Fizz. Iceborne, Spirit Visage, and Sunfire Cape. Now Fox is just trying to take control of his own jungle. Can Steve get that red buff? We'll find out. Looks like it was smited away actually by Trashy.
Oh,
Fox once again roots to the grace. Those grasping roots doing so much work. The barrel comes back with Trashy. Body slams forwards. The audacity of Splyce in what was a 2v4, eventually 3v4. Here comes Wunder. Chum the Waters is available. Wunder throws it down, catches onto Steve. That sends Steve up into the air. He will go down, not before he takes MIkyx with him at least. But it doesn't matter, Splyce, they're on the tower.
So many good walls coming out from Sencux, really impressive, just constantly cutting off the escape of MrRalleZ, and Splyce, with the numbers advantage, might actually try and look to close out the game.
They're onto the Nexus turret, Splyce have taken one. Decided to play this one just a little safe, back away to the mid inhibitor turret, take down the inhibitor as well. And Schalke, well, there's not a lot left, not a lot of hoo-ah for them to call on.
So the safe play right now for Splyce is they have two inhibitors in their favor. A lot of damage goes down onto Gilius.
Yeah, Gilius is taking a huge chunk, forced away. Lamb's Respite's been used. Teleport comes out for Fox. Let's see what he can do. Hemoplague is available. Tides of Blood doesn't do a lot, and Sprattel is already killed. God, so much damage. Splyce are just destroying Schalke. You bought a few seconds, folks, but it's a triple kill for Kobbe. And this will leave the last Nexus turret the target. Crystallize, prevents Steve from getting away. It's a quadra kill for Kobbe.
And that's what happens if you don't lose your AD carry at the start of the fight. Now Kobbe, with that quadra kill, he's going to move with his team to close out game 2.
Splyce obliterate Schalke and pick up their first 2-0 of the summer split.